school-wide implementation plan will feature PECS, Picture Exchange Communication System. Our group members consist of Jamelia, Taylor, Casey, and April. The Ellison School has a fairly large student body of 200 students between the ages of 3 and 5. 25 of the students are nonverbal, but only 5 students use PECS. As a group, we felt that it would be beneficial if all of the students got on board using the PECS system. We also believe that peer modeling of PECS could increase interaction between the students. The school has many professionals, paraprofessionals, and volunteers available to them. By strategically placing volunteers and delegating tasks for paraprofessionals and volunteers, implementing this intervention can be done effectively.
Before we train you to implement this intervention in your preschool, we want to make sure that you understand what PECS is. PECS, or Picture Exchange Communication System, is a type of AAC device, which means that it is a device that allows for an alternative approach to communication. PECS consists of pictures, either ones generated through a computer program or ones that you as an implementer take of items from the student's environment. It then uses them as symbols to represent the needs and wants that a child is struggling to communicate about. One of the greatest things about PECS that you'll see as you learn to implement this intervention is that it's fairly easy to implement and can be implemented by teachers, parents, and even peers.
Using pictures of daily classroom activities is a great way for teachers and support staff to communicate the daily schedule with nonverbal children in the classroom. Creating daily routines allows the child to have a visual idea of what they will be doing during each school day. By creating individualized schedules for each student, instructors can establish structured preferred activity times. By designating when each student can participate in free time, we'll create structure where each child will have adequate time to spend with preferred activities such as playing with toys. Having this structure allows for reduced fighting over toys by creating smaller playgroups. Reducing playgroup sizes gives instructors more one-on-one time to teach the exchange of pictures to communicate desires to play with certain items between verbal and nonverbal students in the classroom. The teacher will be able to utilize the volunteers during structured playtimes for extra help during implementation of picture exchange if the daily schedule is planned out each day. Having the volunteers for support during PECS training will allow extra hands in case of aggressive behaviors occur while nonverbal students are attempting to communicate with other students in the classroom. Volunteers can also be available to present prompts to children using the PECS board when necessary.
Many studies have been conducted that support the use of PECS and peer-modeled interventions to improve the communication of children who are nonverbal. A study by Strausberger and Ferrari supports that peer-mediated intervention can be used to successfully teach children how to communicate using AAC devices such as PECS. McLay and colleagues showed that the generalization and maintenance of communicative skills are better when an AAC device that use graphics such as PECS are used. Finally, a recent study by Biggs, Carter, and Gustafson supported the use of AAC devices in an inclusive setting similar to that of Ellison Preschool to support communication between typically developing peers and peers with communication needs.
There are 6 total phases of PECS. Today we will overview only the first 3 steps. When most of our kiddos have mastered these 3 steps, we will consider moving forward to implement the next 3 steps. The first 3 steps include exchanging across distance, and discrimination of picture cards. This will help our kiddos start the most basic steps of manding via PECS. Phase 1 is designed to errorlessly teach the learner how to exchange the PECS card. Depending on the learner is how quickly the phase may go. Some learners may only need a few prompts where others may need to practice over and over. Regardless, a shadow is used so that the person in the exchange with the learner does not need to prompt. If the person who is receiving the card from the learner is also the prompter, it may confuse them. The shadow will prompt the learner to reach for the card and give it to the person who has the desired item. Phase 2 is similar to Phase 1, but you are increasing the distance between the learner and the person with the item. In this case, the person with the item is a peer. Distance usually starts from one step to a few steps. The person receiving the card should not make eye contact with the learner. The learner should place the card in the peer's hand. This is so that the learner, in a natural setting, they will know how to gain the attention of a person who they want to give a card to. Finally, Phase 3 implements discrimination between picture cards. The peer should only give the item that matches the card given. If the learner continues to give the card for an item they don't want, for example, they could hand the peer a picture card for a teddy bear, but they throw the teddy bear and are getting angry, evidenced by clenched fists or tantruming, the peer should gesture to the card of the item that the learner wants more.
The data is frequency. The data collection forms are phase
April?
specific
I want
for each of the three phases.
I want beads. My turn. What do you want? I want balls. I want beads. Good job.
As you can see in the example video, the child has learned to use pictures to communicate while using an I want board. Communication book gives the child multiple options to choose from while communicating with the instructor. For your use in the classroom, the communication board can be filled with desired toys and activities in the classroom. By having pictures of desired items, the child learning to communicate using PECS can appropriately ask a teacher and/or a fellow peer for the object he or she is wanting. Having the child communicate their wants will lead to less frustration, tantrums, and fighting over mutually desired items in the classroom. It is important to only reward the child with what they ask for using their board, even if you know he or she chooses the wrong picture. Prompting can be given if the child continuously chooses the wrong picture, especially if the child begins to become frustrated. Using error correction after incorrect picture usage will be a useful tool when the child is learning to use the I want PECS system. Having the child point to I want first, then the picture of the desired item will increase sentence structure and communication using pictures. Remember to always reinforce immediately upon delivery of correct I want usage in order to increase communication in the nonverbal students of the classroom.
The data collection method we will use to record and collect data is frequency. The data collection forms are phase specific for each of the three phases. As you can see, these are examples of data collection forms that can be used for phases 1 through 3.
Our goal for this training video and the implementation of the picture exchange communication is to improve the communication between students in the class. Improvement of communication through pictures should reduce the number of tantrums and fights over preferred activities in the classroom. Giving the nonverbal students a way to communicate with the teachers, support staff, and fellow peers would create a sense of community among the class. In order to ensure that reinforcements are still effective while teaching the use of picture exchange, ongoing preference assessments should take place. Reviewing and analyzing what is reinforcing for the students will provide adequate incentive for this nonverbal students to communicate through the use of pictures. Because PECS will be implemented in multiple areas of the school day, it is essential to have weekly meetings among teachers, speech therapists, the BCBA, additional support staff, and volunteers. Weekly meetings should cover where improvements in communication have been made and areas where more training should take place. Data collection and any notes taken on training should be presented and discussed at weekly meetings. Establishing this constant communication among all instructors implementing PECS will allow for everyone to be on the same page and working towards the same goals. Teacher and support staff should encourage parents to implement a picture exchange communication similar to the one used in school at home. By implementing a similar style of communication in the home, you will see an increase in improvements in the classroom regarding communication of your nonverbal students. We hope that this information provided in our training video will reduce the number of fights and tantrums in your classroom by increasing communication among your students. Please contact the training team with any additional questions, comments, or concerns you may have.